a little bit of a disclaimer for those of you watching on YouTube. There are some names spelled wrong. There are some guys where their grade and their class is not accurate, but that's what you get when you rush and you try to beat the power outage through severe thunderstorms. So bear with me, certainly, on that. Now, there are a lot of names. I am not going to list, certainly, all of them off. Otherwise, we might be sitting here for a while. But I've got 20 names in this offensive line group. The standard is the standard for the Ducks up front on the offensive line. Back-to-back years as a Joe Moore Award finalist. It's like the quarterback. You know, you just had back-to-back years as a Heisman finalist. All we're expecting from you is to be one of the best in the country. That's what we've come to expect the last couple of years, and now I think that's what's expected of this Oregon offensive line, but you're replacing 4 starters up front on the O-line. The only guy that's coming back is the center, Iapani Lalaolu. So can this group, with all of this newness up front, especially out of the transfer portal, more on that in just a minute, continue to live up to that standard? I believe that they can at their highest point. But as we learned from last year, it's all about gelling. It's all about gelling together, especially early in the season, to be able to reach that point. But last year, it didn't look so great in the first couple of games, and they still ended up at that level. What is being lost out of this offensive line room? Maybe just one of the best offensive linemen in Oregon history. Josh Connerly, a first-team All-American, first-team All-Big Ten. Oh, and another first-round draft pick, 29th overall to the Washington Commanders. Now he's the main protector for Jaden Daniels in Washington. Ajani Cornelius, the other tackle last year, he's gone. He was a third-team All-Big Ten player, and he was a sixth-round draft pick of the Dallas Cowboys. Marcus Harper, by the way, he's over there writing some content for Ducks Rising, so excited to see Marcus contributing over there. Nishad Strother is out of this room. George Silva, very highly regarded junior college kid that came in, didn't work out for him. He's out. Jaquan McRoy, he transferred out to Arkansas as well. Now we get into some of these significant additions for this Ducks offensive line. And when we talk about significant, we talk about significant with their skill set, and maybe their ranking according to some of these transfer portal sites on 3 or 24/7. And then we talk about significant when we just talk about the size. These are some big old boys. Okay, Isaiah World from Nevada, Emmanuel Pranon from USC, Alex Harkey from Texas State, and then they are bringing in 4 true freshmen as well. This is an entirely new starting group. Okay, the only returner, as I said before, is Poncho. Now, if there's one position that I'm like, okay, if you want to return one position where I want a guy that's just almost written in stone, I think center is the type of guy that I want. That's the leader of the offensive line. And a leader is exactly what Iapani Lalaolu has been during spring ball and now as we approach fall camp. He was noted during the spring by Will Stein as one of the vocal leaders, I think at the time he said, as this offense right now. So that's exactly what you want. You want a guy like that. He's been in this program for a couple of years. He kind of hit the ground running. And of course, last year, after those first couple of games, they moved him over the center, and all was certainly hunky-dory after that. It was a lot of good news after they kind of figured some things out there. He started the first 2 games of the year at right guard a season ago. Now, the Ducks had to go to the transfer portal. They had to. Because, and this kind of plays into some of the depth conversation that I'm going to be talking about here in just a minute, because they did not have guys ready. They did not have guys waiting in the wings. I think that kind of has to do with some of the misses that they've had in recruiting, maybe before Alik Terry took over full-time as the offensive line coach. So they're kind of paying the price now where they got to go into the portal and to be able to get those guys. Let's talk about some of these portal additions. Isaiah World, he's as big as the world, by the way, coming over from Nevada. The number 5 overall player in the transfer portal, and hey, the number 1 offensive tackle. That'll do. That'll do, certainly. Now, he was an All-Mountain West honorable mention. For as much hype and praise as he's getting, people are talking top 10 pick, top 15 pick, maybe in next year's NFL draft. I mean, that's kind of what he was last year, but I think with better coaching, I think that he's going to be able to really stack up well. 6'8", 315 pounds. I've kind of listened to former Duck offensive lineman Jeff Schwartz talk about him a lot, and he just raves about him. raves about him. And obviously Jeff does some stuff covering the NFL as well. So he kind of dabbles in both a little bit, and he raves about Isaiah World and exactly what he can be. Big shoes to fill with Josh Connerly. But people are already talking about him maybe being drafted higher than Josh Connerly. Like, if he's playing at that type of level, Dante Moore's going to love that. If you can keep Dante Moore clean with a guy like World out there, that's going to make your offense a whole lot better. That's why I believe Isaiah World, an extremely important piece to the success of the offense this season. Emmanuel Pranon from USC, he was a second-team All-Big Ten guy last year with the Trojans. I think he was USC's best offensive lineman last season. The number 27 overall player in the portal, did not allow a sack at all last year. Now, he's really good in pass protection, certainly especially for a guard, but I think he was also a really big part of USC having their first 1,000-yard rusher since 2017. Woody Marks, of course, rushed for that in 2024 this last season. 6'5", 320 pounds. Like, I'm gonna talk about these guys' height. I'm gonna talk about these guys' weight, because they are like. And I talked about it, the defense, like the measurables are just like, that's a Big Ten defensive line. These are like huge. This is a Big Ten offensive line. Like, it's just the size. Alik Terry raved about the size of some of these transfers during the spring, and they're going to be able to contend. They're going to be able to push some people around because of the experience that these guys have, and certainly because of the size compared to maybe some of the other defensive lines that they'll be going up against. Alex Harkey transfers over from Texas State. He was third-team All-Sun Belt last season. How about 6'6", 335 pounds? Now, the interesting thing about him over at tackle is he might be a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker out there. I've heard that from people that I trust. And then I also kind of watch the spring game, and I see the same stuff. So maybe he needs to step it up a little bit in terms of pass blocking on that side. But certainly if you're going to pick one side where you need to be better, you're going to pick left. Certainly over right. I think there's a small possibility that, like, he could possibly move into guard because of his prowess at run blocking. But I think that would signal like Janoris Wilson has taken a gigantic step up forward, and you can trust him at right tackle. But personally, I think the entirety of the offensive line will be better if Harkey is over at tackle, and then one of these two that I'm about to talk about is at right guard. And that's going to be the big position battle, I think, on this offensive line during fall camp, is going to be at right guard. I look like that's the thing about last year. There were so many moving pieces, but I kind of look at it this year and I'm like, okay, World's going to be your left tackle. Pranon's going to be your left guard. Poncho's going to be your center. Like, that is as close to written in stone, pending injury, that I think that you can get. Okay, and then maybe as I mentioned before, the right side is going to have some questions. At right guard, Matthew Bedford at 6'6", 310, and Dave Iuli are going to be the guys that are likely going to be in this battle. Bedford transferred over from Indiana before last season. It was his injury and his lingering injury, and he was out for the whole year. It was that really kind of created the problems of the musical chairs last year on Oregon's offensive line. Bedford started 11 games at IU in 2023, allowed just one sack. So once again, there's some great interior pass protection from one of the guards on this team, if he indeed is the guy. But Iuli is like, he filled in for Marcus Harper, I believe, due to injury late in the year last year, and I thought he was actually better. I thought that he was better than Marcus Harper. He started 4 games at right guard, and I thought he was very serviceable, certainly filling in right now. So very intrigued to see who's kind of running with the ones. I maybe lean Bedford as of right now. But Iuli, I think, is going to be one of like the top second-team guys, if he indeed is that way, where he can be the backup at left guard, he can be the backup at right guard, maybe center, any of these interior guys. If they go down, Iuli is maybe somebody that could plug into that rotation as well. Now I want to talk about the depth, because once you get past the starting group, there's a pretty sizable fall off. Like I kind of mentioned how confident I am in a lot of these guys. And I think like once they kind of blend it together, get a couple of games under their belt, and they kind of feel it out a little bit, because when it comes to offensive line, it's much more, that's a group where maybe more than any position group on the field where you need to play as one instead of playing as 5 individual parts. You're a complete unit. And I think that's how you judge an offensive line instead of judging a tackle, a guard, and a center individually. But once you get past that, it's I don't feel fantastic about the depth, but there are young guys on this roster that need to prove, and not necessarily that they can contend for a spot this year, because I think, you got a pretty good starting point with that starting 5 up front for the Ducks, but you need to prove that Oregon doesn't have to go into the portal again next season. Like, there's some young players that have to prove that they've been able to develop over this season. So when they get to next season, they can plug into that starting lineup, and the Ducks can feel confident that they can play at that standard as a Joe Moore Award finalist. Do you see younger guys like freshman Zaire Addison? I really like Doug Utu. Zach Staskowski, he's going to join the team, I think, this summer here headed into fall camp. He did not join the team in the spring. I mean, are they going to start to challenge guys like Charlie Pickert? I mean, Charlie Pickert last year started 2 games at center and then didn't see a whole lot of time after that. Okay, they subbed him out, they put in Poncho, and everything got better. What about Kawika Rogers? Kawika Rogers is a redshirt junior, right? He's played in every game the last 2 seasons. Okay, but where is he going to be as we maybe look towards who's going to be able to be in a spot where they can be a solid second-team guy and thus set themselves up for an opportunity to be a first-team guy when you get to be able to get to next season as well. So I think those are the biggest points when you talk about the big boys up front on the offensive line. I think that this is going to be a really good group when all is said and done, and we're talking about this Ducks team and how they looked in January.